3 o'clock. Good afternoon. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Father Kevin Robb. I'm the Associate Vice President for Mission and Ministry, and as such, I'm the chair of the Smith Fellowship Selection Committee, and am also the director of the program. And on some days, I'm the associate treasurer of the college, which seems like an irreconcilable position. Can't tell you why I have both of them, but I do. Over the last 6 summers, the Father Philip A. Smith OP Student Fellowship Program for Study and Service Abroad has, through the great generosity of not much more than a handful of benefactors, and there's some benefactors in the room, sent 43 Providence College students around the world to Catholic and Dominican venues, either for personal research or for service. Someone just asked me, how many countries have they been to? And I rattled off Haiti, Nicaragua, Peru, Ecuador, Argentina, Ireland, England, Switzerland. Those were all study fellowships. In fact, the first study fellow is right here, Elizabeth Weber Begley, one of our first 2 fellows in 2009. And she and Jeremiah, you graduated what year?
2010.
Okay, they graduated in 2010 and came back for this. And as you see, they're heavily with child. So, a future Smith Fellow right there. We have had service fellowships in Kisumu, Kenya, 2 different locations in South Africa, at Nagpur in the very center of India, in the Philippines, and what I call down under. Either in Sydney, Australia and environs there, or in Sydney, Australia, plus the Solomon Islands, where Bishop Chris Cardone, graduate of Chaminade High School on Long Island, a member of the PC class of 1980, a young Dominican who was loaned to the Dominicans in the province of Australia and sent to the Solomon Islands, and within a few years, John Paul II made him a bishop. And you can just envision him. He goes from island to island in his diocese of Alki in his t-shirt and cutoffs and his funny-looking hat. It's quite a sight. This year, we had 11 fellows, which was a record. We had the funds to do it, and we had 11 very worthy proposals. We had, going to Peru, Julia Guaret, who worked with the Grand Rapids, Michigan Dominican Sisters in their maternity clinic in Chimbote. We had Maggie Schmidt, who went to Tucumán, Argentina, where she worked with the Tucumán Dominican Sisters in their ministries. And we had Kathleen McGreal, who went to Baños de Agua Santa, Ecuador, and worked with the Dominican friars and Dominican sisters there. Kate Jorgensen did a study fellowship in Dublin with the Dominican friars, living with the Dominican Sisters of Cabra. She researched 17th century obscure Dominican friar poet, the great Jesuit poet Gerard Manley Hopkins from the late 19th century, and modern-day Paul Murray, a Dominican who teaches at the Angelicum in Rome. 2 students went to Spring, South Africa with the South African Dominican Friars in their St. Martin de Porres Development Center. They were Joseph Day and Jenna Donahue. Jenna Donahue raised something like $6,500 from her family members and friends, and she took used soccer gear, She had new soccer jerseys designed, and she took soccer equipment and a little extra money. She bought computers for the Dominican friars there, and they bought paint to paint the building. They made a very significant impression on all these orphans who have no place but the St. Martin de Porres Center. Emily La Battaglia went to an orphanage run by the Dominican Sisters of St. Joseph, about a 2-hour bus ride outside of Manila. Actually, the other original Smith Fellow, Claire Pivodo, in 2009, opened that venue, and then we lost touch with them. So Emily reestablished that and went back. Going to Sydney, Australia, Canberra, and other places, working with the Dominican Sisters and Dominican Friars. In Australia for 6 weeks were Elizabeth Naco and Renee Altamari. And last but not least, and certainly the most important for today, were the 2 young ladies who went to Australia first and were introduced to the Catholic Church in the Sydney area. And they went on then to Honiara and then Auki in the Solomon Islands. And I saved them for this presentation. So I welcome all of you, participants in the weekend, former Smith Fellows, donors to the program, potential Smith Fellows. There's some of you sitting out there. There's friends of Carrie and Alex here. So anyway, I want to welcome Carrie O'Donoghue, whose sister is sitting in the back, who was a Smith Fellow the summer before in Haiti. It was the first time we'd had identical twins become Smith Fellows. And Alex Rawson. They're both now seniors at Providence College, and they're going to tell us about their experience. Thank you.
You want to hold it?
Yeah.
No, sorry. Like Father Rob said, my name is Carrie O'Donoghue. I'm a senior here, biology major.
And I'm Alex Rawson, a senior as well, and I'm studying health policy and management.
So we're just going to take you through our trip and our wonderful Father Philip A. Smith fellowship experience.
All right, so we want to start off by just giving you a little outline of what our fellowship entailed. So we began in Cairns, Australia with a quick little excursion which gave us the opportunity to do the Great Barrier Reef as well as a water rafting experience. And then we spent 3 weeks in Sydney, Australia, followed by an additional 3 weeks in the Solomon Islands. And so that basically entailed a few days layover in the beginning and end in Honiara, which is actually the capital of the Solomon Islands. And then the majority of our time was actually spent 2 weeks in Auki, which is a little town on Malaita Island.
So our first half of our trip was spent in Sydney, Australia. And on the left, you'll see a picture of Alex and I with our host parents. Alex and I stayed with 2 different host families in a suburb of Sydney, about 10 minutes away from each other. And we got the opportunity to explore the city together, as you can see on the right.
Yeah, our families were very generous to us. We really had a great experience. Some of the highlights of Sydney in terms of sightseeing would be the Harbour Bridge, the Opera House, the Olympic Park, and then of course we made time to see the Kangaroos and rugby match. So, had a lot of fun.
So pictured here is Alex and I with Sister Rosemary Kinney, who is our main point of contact in Sydney, Australia. She was one of the Dominican sisters out of Sydney. She taught at a school called Santa Sabina College, which was a secondary school for girls. Also pictured is Ben Clare. Ben Clare is a blind man who had spent a lot of time in the Solomon Islands, so he decided that with the help of Sister Rosemary to kind of acquaint us with the Solomon Islands and what was in store for us.
Right. He's just been very influential in the Solomon Islands, raising awareness as well as finding organizations for the blind there. So it was really awesome just to get his perspective again and just to kind of prepare for what we were about to experience ourselves. And then again, Sister Rosemary really was like a little guardian angel to us. She took care of our families, host family arrangements, as well as just all of our service trips. All right, so here we're pictured with various individuals from the Epidus Center. And so this is actually a Catholic center that organizes different programs for the deaf and hard of hearing. And so basically we spent some time with them just kind of understanding the different programs and organizations for the deaf within like Australia. And we were actually able to go to the actual Deaf National Society in New South Wales. So that was cool just to see the infrastructure and all of that. But you know, throughout the day we would go through the city and just interact with them, and they were extremely generous in that they taught us various ways to communicate and all these different signs. So that's love. And so we were able to do a lot of that, but it was important because Carrie and I really wanted to be able to communicate, because we knew that in a few weeks we would be going to the islands, and we just wanted to be ready for the students and the adults as well that were hearing impaired, so we could communicate with them as easily as possible. And then just to fast forward real quick, when we were in the Solomons, we were able to go to San Isidore Center, which was a center for the deaf and hard of hearing in the Solomon Islands. So it was really interesting to see the disparities between what it was like in Australia as opposed to what the services would be in the islands. So that was a really special experience for us to be able to sign with them when we got there. Kind of tried to communicate as best we could.
There were about 4 language barriers between us and the students at the school there, because in the Solomon Islands, they speak a tribal language, then they speak the common language for all Solomon Islanders called Pidgin, then they speak English in class and at church, and then add in then the sign language, and there's a different sign language actually between America and Australia. So it was very cool to be able to communicate with them. And St. Lucy's School, when we weren't at the Epidus Center, we actually got some time at St. Lucy's School. We went there about 4 times. It's a school for people with intellectual disabilities. It's an elementary school. Alex and I were put into 2 different classes. I was actually with a group of 3rd graders, and they were unbelievable. The class size was about 10 students. There was a teacher and teaching assistant in every classroom, and it was run through a Dominican order. So you could see that throughout the entire day. One of our favorite parts of the day was the first 10 minutes of class. Everybody actually gathered on the playground, and then they did a whole dance session, and then we went inside and did opening prayer, and they actually used sign language in the school because some of the students, that was the better way for them to be able to communicate and connect. There were a lot of visual learners there, so it was very interesting.
Signing the whole time.
And we don't have pictures of the students there because we weren't allowed to take pictures of the young kids. But pictured is on the right is fairy bread. My class, it's a very popular Australian treat. It's actually white bread with butter and sprinkles on it.
Wow.
But they were so excited to make it for me, and they made a special party for me on my last day. So that was included.
It was a really great experience for us both. We really enjoyed working with the little kids. I know for me, I really enjoyed the math classes, just because you can really understand the disparity in the learning levels and abilities. So like I would tell Karen, it's like, okay, so it was a really great day. You know, so-and-so was able to do their timetables by 3, but then so-and-so was able to count to 3. And so, you know what I mean, you just get, it's totally different, and it's so unique pertaining to each student. And so we really felt that was special. We're saying, like, every student, you have such a big success. You know what I mean? That number 3 was so huge for that day. And so we just learned that it's the little things. You know what I mean? You just got to be appreciative and celebrate. And it was such a success. It was great. And we're so happy there. We just love the kids.
One of the nonverbal girls from the class that I was in, who normally used her iPad to communicate with the people around her, she usually spoke to her teacher, but by the end of my time there, she was actually talking to me, and that for me was something that was really great.
Okay, so to the Solomons we go. All right, so pretty much to get there, it was a plane and a cargo ship, and you explain that.
So the Solomon Islands is a 3rd world country off the coast of Australia, so it took us 3 hours by plane to get to the capital, and then once we were in the capital, we took a 6-hour boat ride to Auckland, which is the small town that we spent most of our time in. Again, like I mentioned, the Solomon Islands, there's kind of a language barrier, but most people we were able to communicate with. But it was very interesting seeing that language barrier in the schools that we ended up spending time in.
You know, it is a 3rd world country, so it was just, trying to get acclimated and accustomed to that different lifestyle. It took a few days, but I would say some of the background things that people really didn't know. Yes, it was really hot there. It was about 80s. Let's see what else.
All year round.
Yeah, all year round, very hot. Again, those are the homes, no electricity, no running water, hardly any vehicles, just dirt roads, dirt paths, everywhere. You walk everywhere.
One road in town.
Yeah, just one main road. Everyone knows everybody, so wherever we went, hi sisters. No, we weren't nuns. But no, we didn't tell them.
It never will be.
They thought we were. Some people still question if we're going to be. No, it's not that hot. I'm trying to think of other things, just, it was the Solly ways.
Yeah.
No hurry, no worry. We had to get used to that. We're used to the American go, go, go. And so, no rush, no worries.
And they're the happiest people on earth. So.
Oh, and that too, but you'll see that to come.
So Alki, Molita Island, this is where we spent most of our time. We actually stayed on a private road type
Yeah, so
development.
It was like a compound, that's what we refer to it as. Alright, so this right here is Fanulama, so that again is the compound that we stayed on. And so a lot of times people say it's the promised land. It is. Like honestly, when you arrive, you show up and it's a dirt path, and all along the paths there's just beautiful coconut trees and palm trees and flowers everywhere, and all the paths are of coral and seashells. It's just so beautiful. And then right there is the chapel. Now what you don't see is to the side was like a little, kind of like a little hut, which is where the Dominican sisters stayed. There were 3 of them. And then to the side of the other side would be Bishop Chris's home, and he just stays there. And then Carrie and I had our own little hut, so that was fun. We had our own rooms, and then we had like a little kitchenette. And then there's various huts all around, sprinkled throughout, with members from the diocese. So throughout the day, we were constantly surrounded by people, little kids, puppies, cats, lizards, just like there was life everywhere. So it was really fun for us.
Yeah, so we'll take you through our daily schedule there a little bit. Right here is the chapel, the inside of the chapel. As you can kind of see, there are no walls on the sides. Every morning we started our day at 6:10 with morning mass, and it was a great way to kind of get to know the people in the community. And one of our favorite things about mass was across the street from Fanulama was a secondary school called Aligagio School. And there were a bunch of boarding students there, and every morning about 20 of the boarding students would come to Mass at 6:10 in the morning and join us in prayer. And it was really wonderful to see such a strong sense of faith in you.
Yeah, absolutely. And even in the morning that early, they'd be singing, just ready to go, bright smiles, just right away. I mean, we were still getting acclimated, for like 6:30, but they were ready to go.
And one of the
Right.
biggest culture shocks was you didn't have to wear shoes in church. So we were sitting there with our bare feet. It was a lot of fun.
That was fun. And then there was constantly like a dog would sprinkle in, and oh my gosh, this is unreal, but
You can do that here too if you like.
we might bring that back. Oh, goodness.
So again, Aligagio Secondary School, Alex and I had the opportunity to go in and teach a few classes. We went in with the intention of just going and observing, but we kind of ended up taking charge of the classes. So this is a math class that I taught in. You can see about 40 students in there. There's about 2 or 3 students to a desk, and they each share one of the workbooks. So I taught a lesson on bar graphs one day, and when the teacher assigned an assignment at the end of the day, the students had to stay after and copy the graphs from the book and copy down all the questions before they could do their homework. So I thought that was a very good thing for us to see and appreciate all of our education.
All of the resources that we have here, absolutely. As Karen was doing a lot of math and science classes, I was doing primarily English, and so I would go around and just kind of read the students, paragraphs and work on paragraph structure and things like that. And I was just shocked by, I was like, all right guys, this is high school kids, like, do you want me to check your work, do you want me to read it over? Every single student would stay late, just wanted to hear everything I had to say about, grammatical, like errors and things like that, but it was just amazing to see how much they wanted to learn. They were just so excited to have the opportunity, and we were so happy to share our resources and what we could give to them. Again, another thing that we were just so impressed by was the fact that here we are, there's a lot of kids in the classroom, you can't even see half of them, and we're just 20-year-old kids trying to teach them. Not once do we have to say, excuse me, be quiet, you know what I mean? There was never a single disciplinary issue. So.
We even taught classes that had people who were our age or older, and again, nobody quiet down or anything like that. And Louisiana.
So this was a little village literally on the water. So when we would go to the schoolhouse in the morning, we would cross through the dirt path over the bridge and then get to the schoolhouse. And again, what you don't see is that it's literally on the ocean. So like right behind you, waves were crashing, you're walking through sand to get there. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Also, just to give you a little background, when you do walk into the room, that's it. It was just one, it's a schoolhouse, but it's just one single room. It's built out of wood and dried grass. It's very basic. The classroom would be about, that's their decorations, and then they might have a few books, stuffed animals, that's about it. And again, like, as the day goes on, more and more kids are sprinkling in, and all of a sudden, it's 58 kids in that one little room. Yeah, you can kind of see, they're everywhere. That's what class was like, 2 teachers with 58 kids. Some kids had uniforms, some didn't, some were 3, 5, 6, any age, honestly, just come and go. And yeah, it was just really exciting to be with all of the kids. It was hard to, give them each attention, but we tried our best.
On the top left, you'll see a class picture. That's actually Louisiana's first class picture. Alex was looking around the room on one of our last days there, and she saw that all of the pictures on the wall were cut out from a calendar. So Alex was like, would you guys want a picture, maybe? And the teachers were so grateful, and you could just see on their faces how much that meant to us, that meant to them. And we actually were able to send them over to them a couple of copies.
Nice pictures. That was a very special moment for us. And then Carrie and I also spent some time teaching, so we were trying to just go over the alphabet. It was a big lesson. And then also numbers, we did that. And then some nursery rhymes, and they did love to do dancing at the end. So we would do hokey pokey and different things like that. But yeah, super fun.
And then pastoral visits. On days that we were free in the afternoon after kindy or just hanging around on the weekends, we'd try and make time to go to the hospital down the road. Two of the people that we stayed with on the compound, Sister Matilda and Deacon Patrick, made bi-weekly visits to the hospital. So we would tag along with them and watch them as they interacted with all the patients. And I want to be a nurse, and Alex is looking to work in the hospital system in some capacity after graduation. So we were both in awe of the situation there. And it was very different than the system in America because we could just walk right into the hospital, take time. We were able to
No one asked
shake
any
hands with the
questions.
patients.
It was
wonderful.
nothing. Yeah.
But you'll see the balloons up hanging up, and Alex had brought those along with her, and we tried to bring something every time we went. And Alex actually was sent with a couple of crosses, rosary.
Father Tom in the back, he donated quite a few rosaries that we were able to distribute throughout the hospital. So that was really special for us, just because the families there are really only have one rosary per family usually. So it was a big deal to be able to, share our faith together and pray together over the rosaries. So thank you, Father Tom. But while doing that, it was just a very, very important moment for us both to be visiting the hospitals, just especially with Deacon Patrick. I know for me, I vividly recall just seeing him rubbing the backs of patients, showing love to them, and that's something that I've never really seen in that level. Just the way that he was outpouring his love and his faith, it was just amazing. It was life changing right then and there. Like I would tell Carrie, I just saw what it truly means to love thy neighbor, like a brother and sister, and so that was a big moment for me, I think.
And I think Deacon Patrick was one of our biggest helpers there because he came in with us. He rode on a 6-hour cargo ship ride with us. So he kind of introduced us a little bit about what we should be expecting. But he was a really great mentor, and we had a lot of great talks with him, but one of his main points was make sure you're present at every moment that you're there. He said he was in awe when he went to Melbourne in Australia, of how you could stand this close to somebody on a train and not say one word to them and stare at them for 15 minutes. So it was good things, little lessons like that that we kept with us.
So, weekends. During the weekends, we try to take advantage of our time as much as possible just to get to know everyone in the community. And so, on the bottom right, you'll see us with one of the boys. His name was Richard, and then that's actually Brother Henry. And so, what we were doing with them was painting. They had never learned to paint. They didn't know what paintbrushes and any of that was. So, being the daughter of an art teacher, I was so excited to share a little bit about my life and my home with them. So, that was a lot of fun.
And on the bottom left, it's me with Brother Henry cooking. Brother Henry was one of our good friends there by the end of it, but he taught us all different ways of Solomon life. And every weekend there was a different celebration. They were celebrating feast days and birthdays and whatever they could. They
Never a dull moment.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
what you don't hear is the country music that would be blaring. He loved our country music from the States. So we cooking and singing all day. It was, we had a great time.
It was fun. On the top left, you'll see us with a couple of the people from the neighborhood. Alex and I were somehow nominated like exercise instructors, which I don't know how.
I
It
mean,
was scary. But some days we would teach gym classes, and other days we just try and go for a walk after class with the students. So that was a good. Yeah.
one afternoon we literally were doing a cardio session with the sister. She's in her blues. We're like doing
Trying
jumping
to-
jacks, trying to teach her jumping jacks.
It was
Oh
fun.
gosh, again, never a dull moment. Now, in the top right, that's Bishop Chris himself. Fun little fact, he was a classmate of my mother's here at Class of 80. So I had met him once, and then here, and I was able to go there and meet him in his home. So it really is a small world. It was really cool to be able to have that friendship built as well.
So weekend masses were an hour and 40 minutes minimum. And at the end of it, nobody would stand up and move. They'd like just hang around, and it was the highlight of their week. And that was really great to see. And you'll see it, you can kind of see it in this picture here. Behind us and on the top right is the altar. The altar in that picture was actually moved from Honiara by Bishop Chris. And that was the same altar that Pope John Paul had said mass over when he came to visit Solomon's in 1984. So Alex and I had the opportunity before we left to touch the altar in the same place that Pope John Paul had touched it in, and we prayed for his intercession. So that was wonderful.
Yeah, so again, Sunday was a day of celebration. That was the big event of the entire weekend. We would spend pretty much our entire day just at the church after Mass and all of that. But for Carrie and I, Mass, every time we said we got a different experience out of that, a different emotion, a different feeling. It was great. There was so much singing,
Big dance up the
Dance,
gifts.
yeah, literally. The gifts, they would have beautiful flowers, and even that was, oh yeah, it was just so beautiful. And all the kids would sing so loud, oh my gosh. So even during Mass, we couldn't stop smiling. We were just so happy, we were just so present there. Absolutely amazing.
And then on our final night, we actually had our own celebration. And for Solomon tradition, at the end of a big celebration, they like to have people make speeches. So everybody from the different groups that we had interacted with made a speech to us and wished us luck. And they'd say, thank you so much. We're like, you don't understand, thank you.
Thank you.
And they'd say, thank your mom, your dad, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles. Like, we
Thank you
love
for
them, we don't
sending
know
you.
them. They were just the sweetest people. And it was a great send-off. And we got to sing and dance the entire night with them. It was hilarious.
Literally hand in hand. Again, we're just standing there, and all of a sudden Gladys, who's probably 60-something, comes running over and joins hand in hand, and you're just, oh my gosh, it was just so amazing just to be surrounded by so much joy, so much happiness. Karen, what was your favorite moment of that?
I have one of my strongest memories from that night is we were all singing and dancing in a circle, but in one corner there were about 3 or 4 of the boys from town who were 18 to 20 years old, and they were singing and dancing like
Hand in hand.
fools, hand in hand, swinging around, and that's one of the images that I still can't get out of my mind. They were just so happy and so excited. Like, this is how they spent their Friday night, and like took time out of their day to come hang out with us.
Just to send us off. It was just so genuine. That's all it was. Just truly amazing to be surrounded by such wonderful, wonderful people.
So, in conclusion,
Thank you.
very much.
Honestly.
Does anyone have questions for Alex or for Carrie? Anything more you'd like to know?
Yes.
Here you go.
I have actually 2 questions. One is, what's the economy based on? How do people earn their living? And then also noticing the open sides of the church and having spent time in the South Pacific earlier in my life, do they have a rainy season there?
Yes, they do. So your first question, it's mainly subsistence living, so if you went up to people and asked them if they worked, the majority of people would say no. They work from the start of the day to the end of the day. but a lot of people only consider working as working in a government industry or, yeah, there's very few like jobs. There are a few stores in town, but it's mainly subsistence.
There really isn't much opportunity for the career experience. Like you said, there really is like one restaurant.
There was
Yeah.
one restaurant in
Oh,
town,
yeah.
and Bishop Chris took us there.
But like she said, there are a few universities, but you would usually go to Honiara. And then primarily the careers would be nursing, school teacher, and then some police force.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much the main things. Again, the women especially worked so hard. Jenny and I were called lazy because we sat down to read. God forbid a female ever sit down, not a good thing. So it's just a different, it's a different idea of work.
Yeah. And to answer your second question, there is a rainy season. We just missed it. It's mostly in June, and we were there in August.
Somehow though, every time we put launch on that line, the rain found us.
Found us.
So, needless to say. Yeah.
Was a long villages that you visited and where they spaced, did you have to take like a jeep? Or could you walk from village to village?
It was about from where we stayed to the preschool, which was probably the farthest place that we went. It was about a little under 2 miles. We'd always walk. There was a bus that went from one end of the road to the other, but it was like a big van that you kind of just jumped in and out of, and you didn't. They never posted the fare anywhere. You just kind of had to know what to pay.
So we opted to walk.
Yeah, we walked everywhere. It was very safe. And
How long are some of the school days? Are they 2 or 3 or 4 hours long?
Well, with the kindy, it was usually kind of more of a morning feeling to the day, so we tried to get there between 8:30 and 9. Possibly try to start around 9, but needless to say, you have some slow starts, solid time. And then we would usually break the day around 12:30ish one, and that entails us just cleaning the schoolhouse. So small for the little kindies, but then
at the secondary school, they'd start school early in the morning and then go through our normal time here. But when we were actually there, the water at the school that we were working at was broken, so their dam was broken. That meant that every morning the students would have to walk a little bit over a kilometer down the road to the stream where they'd fill up a bucket with water so that the school would have means to cook their meals. And then they'd also need to shower in the stream, but they need the water for the bathroom. And it was one of the hardest parts of us being there. But when they were there, when that was happening, the school kind of was flexible with the hours. So school would start at like 9 instead of 8, and
they wouldn't take a full day.
It was-
break the
it
house.
was so foreign for Alex and I because when class was over, it wasn't really over. Like
There wasn't a school bell or anything, and the kids just wanted to learn. So Carrie would come in, you've been here for 2 hours. Oh my gosh.
There
Like,
was-
there's no structure.
there's a warped sense of time there, which is great. It was nobody ever looks at. Nobody has watch.
No, not at all.
It was great.
Did they make that for you?
Yes, they did. This was blessed and sent with us from Australia's Women Pink Sisters, and so we were ready for that. And then this necklace right here was actually given to us by one of the girls named Matilda, and she was a sweetheart. We became very good friends with her. We would do pastoral visits and things to that matter, and she made it a point to make sure that she sent us off with something, and so that's a big deal for them because this is shell money, so it's a currency for them, and as they have such little, it's
Are they very grateful for having you?
yeah, so grateful. And that was, again, it's something that I'll hold on to forever. It's just so sweet. She wrote us both a letter. I wish I brought it. And she said, if you come back, you can stay at my home, maybe 3 days if you want more. So, you know what I mean? And then she also, she wrote, she knew Carrie had a twin. She said, I love you and I love your twin.
Yeah.
So she loves you. But yeah, just truly beautiful people. Yeah.
Did you have a sense that the parents were hopeful that education would give their children an opportunity to have a better life than subsistence living, or were they just trying to get basic skills?
It depends on the family. Basic skills for the most part. But Bishop Chris was really good at promoting education, and he actually takes it,
Father figure.
he's a big father figure for a lot of people and really encourages both the male and female students to continue on in their education and pursue a career path. Like Richard wants to be a school teacher. One of the other boys that we've spent some time with wants to be a lawyer. And the boys from the community really did look up to Bishop Chris, and it was great to see him in action. Because you don't think that a bishop would have such a strong connection with a bunch of 20-year-old boys, but they were always around the house, and it was so funny for us. We always had meeting buddies.
So I'm intrigued by the fact that you have an example of 18 to 20-year-old young men who can do something on a Friday night where they're laughing and enjoying each other's company.
That's the beauty of it.
And is that translatable to the college experience here?
Yes,
We tried to make that our mission, honestly.
yes. One of the biggest things that Bishop Chris told us to keep in mind as we come back was he's like, this is easy here. This is simple, life here's simple. He's like, the key is translating the simple little things into the busy lifestyle that you guys lead. And I think the key to that would be just the loving connections and like spending that extra time with people and
Be present, right?
yeah, enjoying life for what it is.
Honestly, and again, Deacon Patrick said, you girls came with each one little bag, and you were fine. You actually had more than enough. And so again, that's the lesson you need to bring home. You don't need much. Look around you, honestly. There wasn't much, but what was there was huge. And it was just love. Carrie and I, we both felt that. And those boys, hand in hand, they love each other, honestly, and it's not a bad thing, and that's what we love. They were so confident, and they didn't care. There was no sense of, do I look weird, do I look funny? Like, no one thinks like that. It's not like that at all. Everyone's just so, you're you, and that's great. And it was just, and that's what we truly did want, you know what I mean? We still want to bring that home here. That is our mission, just that you don't need much. We're perfectly fine, and just, you know, be happy, smile. That would change our day, literally.
You see us lighting up as we talk about it. It was a life-changing experience, to say the least.
Keep asking friends. We were paid at all, at any time, although it's just so long.
We felt very safe. The only part of the trip where Alex and I were probably a little bit out of our comfort zone was when we went into the Capitol for the first time.
Yeah.
We were with the sisters, so we were never in any danger at all. But it was just very different and confronting to kind of see in the Capitol there was a very strong sense of poverty.
Yeah.
And it was in an urban setting, so it was a little, you didn't know the people around you as
Right.
well.
Just because it was so big, that was the thing, we couldn't go anywhere by ourselves. And we just weren't accustomed to that, you know what I mean? We were always with the sisters, everything was locked. And so that was the only time that we really had to be a little bit on our guard.
But we were by no means in any danger.
No, we were fine. Were we ever scared? The first night in Honiara, I walked in, I saw a little head peep out of the wall, and I was scared that night, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, I think there's a snake in my walls. I had to have the sister come down and like tuck me in. It was a gecko. And little did I know that by the end of the trip, I love geckos because they kept the bugs away. So it was great. Never were we afraid. And honestly, another thing for us was our faith. You know what I mean? It got stronger and stronger. So
That edge that
Yeah.
you're in a bad neighborhood.
exactly, you say a couple extra prayers, but it's no worries. And also we had each other. So it was like if I were there alone, yeah, I would be a little nervous. But I always had so much kind of like, this is okay. Definitely.
Questions? Any more? Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Not this past week, but the week before, we had 3 other presentation sessions. And I can assure you that the 8 fellows who presented over those 3 sessions presented just as well and just as charmingly as Alex and Carrie have. Indeed, one thing I can attest to, 6 rounds, 6 years of Smith Fellows, the presentations get better. Of course, that might be added to the fact that we've got a new requirement in the colloquium, which means that before they get out of here, they're supposed to be able to talk, in addition to write. it's been a privilege of mine, to head this effort for the past 6 years. And I've been extremely impressed with all of our Smith Fellow applicants, and certainly with the 43 men and women. Unfortunately, it's been mostly women. What does that tell you about the fairer sex? They're really more applied to this. The guys haven't gotten into it so much. So the majority of our Smith Fellows have been women. 7 of our 43 Smith Fellows have gone to the Solomon Islands over a 4-year period and have had experiences just as Alex and Carrie have narrated for us. None of this would be possible without the generosity of alums of Providence College. Most of our gifts over the 6 years, and they total over $200,000. Most of those have come from members of the Board of Trustees, or in one case, a previous trustee, plus a handful of other, generous donors. Frankly, this past year, 11 fellowships cost $5,400 apiece. They are fellowships, which means, they're a complete gift. And the only payback they have to make is a presentation such as this. In addition, to sharing with their families, their classmates, their friends, alums of Providence College, what they experienced in a different corner of the world far away. So I thank all of you for being here. I do want to recognize Elizabeth Nako, who arrived a little late. Elizabeth was one of the 2 fellows who went to Australia proper for 6 weeks this summer, and she and her traveling companion made their presentation a week ago, Thursday evening. I have had 3 information sessions in the past week for Smith Fellows for summer 2015. And I'm happy to report that I have the names of 59 Providence College sophomores or juniors who have indicated their interest in the program. That's about average any given year. We may see 30 initial applications come November the 21st, and then we'll read those carefully. Most of them will be authorized to continue. We receive final applications near the end of January, and then we will be choosing, the members of the selection committee, 10 fellows to go off. Some of them will go to places, others have gone before. There's always a long line for the Solomon Islands, and actually for Australia too. 10 kids applied for Australia or the Solomon Islands last year. We could only send 4. I mean, there's only so much that they can absorb on the other end. But again, this is made possible through the generosity of members of the Providence College family. And as director of the program, I think Father Gabriel Pavarnik, the Vice President for Mission and Ministry, would also join in this. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts, everybody who supports this program in any way and makes these fellowships possible. And that's our spiel. Oh, Bill?
I have a quick question. Why, assuming funding, more funding to be made available, why do we restrict the fellowships to only 10?
Well, as it is, I now spend over 200 hours in a year administering the program. So part of it's a factor of what I'm capable of doing. It's also, I mean, I could send 5 kids to the Solomon Islands, but it would be too much for them to absorb. So we'll say that the limitation is me. Is that fair, Gabriel?
That is, I mean, I think it would be great if we could expand it. The reality is, to expand the program requires a lot more administrative hours. And if this was the only thing that we had to do in mission and ministry, we'd be able to do that. But yeah, as you know very well, Bill, that we have 50 million things that we're doing in mission and ministry. And so we're happy that we get 10 out every year. And all it takes is for one snafu to make those 200 administrative hours 300. So that's
I'm
where-
getting old.
Yeah.
I went on Medicare this year. But again, I really thank you for coming and joining us. There is the, there's the hospitality room down in the great room. It's just worth going in to see. And then at 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock, we've got all sorts of 20-minute sessions that take place in the classrooms down on the ground floor. One of them is on campus ministry and service in campus ministry. If you'd like to drop in and hear that, they're only 20-minute presentations. Again, thank you very much for being with us.